Both you guys were obviously in a new offensive system. Tell me how you've been adapting to it thus far.
I adapted a lot. Coach K's offense has been really good. A lot of explosive plays. Us in the run game, the pass game too. It just shows like everybody's locked in with it.
What made you say explosive plays? I mean, we hear that all the time around here.
Just the different schemes you've been having. The line loves it. It has a lot of difference from last year too, especially the receiver game too. Receivers getting open, they make explosive plays, finishing runs. It's just Coach K's had been having that offense been looking good.
Second year as a starter, we talk about the second year for players, right, to be able to take that growth. But you have a new offensive coordinator. How has that worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, obviously different system, but I just think from the experience I gained from last year, it's helped me a lot through spring ball and obviously getting into fall camp. For offensively, pass game-wise, most of it's pretty similar to what we did last year, maybe just different complements to what we did last year. So I've gotten a lot of reps through my 2 years here already, and then obviously going into my third year. And I think there's a lot more detail that's going into the pass game, which is helping us out, but also helping the receivers and running backs out, getting certain depths on certain routes and really explaining the why behind everything, which is Coach K's big thing. He has a teaching background, which you could probably see if you came to one of our practices, just his teaching philosophy, and I think that's been really good for not only the quarterbacks and me, but the whole offense as a whole.
Talk about the offensive line and how that group is developing and gelling.
Yeah, the offensive line's been really good. You saw throughout this whole practice, man, we had a lot of good runs. It starts up front. We always tell them in the meetings, they take pride with that. So, they've been doing so good.
One of the interesting drills that we saw was the scramble drill. Your first year, you have your regular throw, and then you scramble. Talk about that, and is that something that you just started doing this year?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we started doing it in the spring, and honestly, it was because when we had some 7-on-7 reps come up where, defense did a good job of covering our receivers, and whoever the quarterback was in, break and contain and trying to work on scramble drill, we just weren't clean with it as a whole unit. So Coach K brought this drill up, get the ball out for us on our first progression and scramble, and it's super important just because those situations happen in games a lot. Like Coach K said, out of every 5 dropbacks, one of them is going to be a scramble from the quarterback. So we need to be on point with those 20% of the dropbacks that are going to happen in game and make explosive plays out of those.
You're an explosive player, whether it's the run game, the pass game, but you also had some nice blitz pickups today. Mm-hmm. How much pride do you take in being able to do that?
For sure. I take pride with that a lot, especially, Coach Sider always preaches that, being a complete back, you can run the ball, but importantly, you got to protect the quarterback, protect Drew, Bo, whoever. And in the receiver game, too, I take pride with that, Throughout this whole offseason, I've been just doing routes with receivers, how they run routes, their depth and all that. So it's been looking good.
Yeah, talking about the receivers, I know from a quarterback standpoint, when people get on your receiving core, that doesn't sit too well. Mm-hmm. So what have you guys been doing to continue to develop, and how's that group been developing?
Yeah, I think one of the best things that we've been doing this fall camp already is just meeting every day, and me running those meetings with the older receivers and getting all the quarterbacks and all the receivers in there just so we can, talk through certain things. Young guys can ask questions and speak up if they, they don't completely understand things. I think it really shows up in those critical downs in games, and specifically third down man coverage. One of the first 2 practices, we weren't doing a great job of getting negative and friendly for quarterbacks on out routes versus man coverage, and obviously our defense has a tremendous amount of talent and are able to play man coverage really well, so it's really good work for us. But I think me and Danny getting together with Coach Hagens and putting together a cut up of our clips of what we can be doing better, and then showing guys in the NFL, one specific guy, Jamar Chase, one of the best guys that I've ever seen, negative and reduced space, and Tyreek Hill, those guys. And I think for the receivers, seeing guys like that at that level, who they all want to be doing the things that we want to do, it's going to help them put on film for that next level. And I can just see it, they take pride in getting better at the little things, because that's what's going to make this pass game more explosive for us this year.
You got to take us back, negative and friendly. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so really on any horizontal or in-break and out-breaking route for our receivers, we preach getting almost reducing space and coming back down
coming back down
the line of scrimmage towards the quarterback, because it's specifically a man, because DBs are going to be trailing. They're going to get hands on hips and try to do the slingshot technique to undercut the ball, bat it down, or get a pick. And if the receivers are able to get friendly and us throw them down with the ball, so create more separation in man coverage, which is going to allow for more yak yards, rack yards, and run after catch.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you taking the time. This is a fun practice to watch today. Look forward to watching you guys during the season. Stay healthy.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Coach, it's really good to see you.
Great to see you, too.
And thanks for doing this. What have you enjoyed the most about taking over the defense at Penn State?
You know, I just back to focusing on building relationships with players, coaching ball, you know, and just being in the film room studying defense. I really enjoyed that part of it. I think that's the chance to really spend time with the guys and not deal with all the other things that you often get drawn into when you're not in that role and you're a head coach. And so I've enjoyed getting back into that.
You've got a lot of talent on the defensive side, and Penn State's had a lot of talent for a lot of years. How do you decide what to keep from what they've been doing in the past and what you want to put your stamp on it? How do you make that decision?
Yeah, I think that's it's a really important decision without question, and there's a balance to that, you know. And I think you understand who's been recruited here and the body types and skill sets that we have recruited here in the past, and I think you just want to continue to capitalize off of that and be able to do the things that will allow their strengths to shine, you know. So to me, it's a little bit of both of things we've done in the past at other places and mix it in with the things that they've done here. Done really well, and you know, we have a lot of guys back from last season, so to me it's just a lot of discussion with the coaches, even Coach Franklin in the initial process, but at the end of the day it's about making sure it's what's best for Penn State.
Right.
How has it been for you in this role, in this chair, compared to the chair you've sat in for so long?
Well, I tell you, there's when things happen that the head coach has to deal with that are not easy.
Right.
I just get a chance to go back to my office and go back to watching film and doing the things that the coordinator would do, you know. So I've enjoyed not having to be drawn into that and be pulled out of meetings for things. And so, I mean, it's a different role without question, but with the size of our staff and the responsibilities of this type of program, you feel like you're the head coach of the defense, which, you know, technically I am, and there's a lot to be able to keep me busy with that, you know. So I feel like that all those experiences I had as a head coach in the Big Ten have helped me become a better coordinator now the second time through.
A lot of guys stand out on this defense. They always have, as Coach referenced. Zane Durant stood out for me today. What have you recognized about him and this entire defensive front throughout camp so far?
Well, he's just powerful. You know, he's so athletic and explosive, and he's got a great motor. What I've seen out of him this year is just growth in regards to leadership. You know, I think he's been doing it by example the last couple of years based on the guys that were here, and he's always been a really good player. We recruited him, you know, in the past and knew his family already, and so, but just taking his game to another level, taking his leadership to another level, and that's what we expect from a guy that's been here for 3 years.
You start with West Virginia at West Virginia, a really tough opener.
Absolutely.
Would you get into game plan any earlier in camp because of the opener?
Yeah, we will definitely, you know, we got a process for that, and we'll definitely not wait till game week to start preparing. And, you know, even the bottom line is even in concept and principle, you're still trying to start building that for sure. But we'll start talking here, you know, in about another week.
Compare the talent on this defense to all the other defenses you've coordinated or had as a head coach.
You know, I think that just the depth across the board, you know, the size and athleticism up front is different than I've had in the past. I think that the depth, especially at corner, you know, is something that really excites me, because you think about all the kinds that you need to be able to have to play different personnel packages and different things you want to do. And then obviously you got some really talented safeties and linebackers as well. So I would say it's, you know, the most talented group I've been a part of, you know, as both the head coach in the Big Ten and then as a coordinator at Division I level. So really excited about this group.
Every day you go up against one of the most talented backs in the country, backs, plural.
Yeah, it's plural.
But Nick Singleton specifically, what has he done for your side of the ball? Because at least from my lens, Coach, it was one of the most physical practices I've seen in years earlier today.
Well, it's about that way every day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm telling you, I've not been around a more physical football team in our preparation. These guys just keep battling, and they work, and they'll hit you, and they just keep coming back, you know. And, you know, it's both sides of the ball, obviously sharpening each other, and you got two big old backs that are hard to tackle, you know. And but we're gonna, I'm sure moving forward, we're gonna protect those guys, you know. So, but as you saw today, you know, they're big and physical. They're elite Big Ten running backs, and there's, like I said, we're talking. It's not just one of them, you know. So that helps us, makes us better, because you got to tackle in space.
Coach, again, it's great to see you, and appreciate your time.
Appreciate that.
You bet.
We are.
And what do you know? James Franklin is here with us now. Coach, those are some impressive numbers, no doubt. You've really had this program on a nice trajectory. How would you assess the state of Penn State football?
Yeah, I think as you know, we've been very, very consistent, one of the most consistent programs in the country. But at a place like Penn State, the expectations and standards are very, very high. So for us, we want to do everything we can to put ourselves in the best position to get into the playoffs, but not only get into the playoffs, get into the playoffs in an advantageous position, whether it's a bye or whether it's a home game to start the run.
All right, so let's look ahead after looking back there at this season. And you made a change, offensive coordinator. What was your vision for this offense? Like, what were you looking for when you went out and said, I want to get someone new?
Well, I think the first thing is after 11 years, we don't need to start all over. So somebody that's an experienced play caller, a confident play caller, but also has the humility to say, hey, let's come in. Let's see what we don't have to change, because, part of it, too, is we hired someone that has a similar scheme and background. There's obviously some wrinkles that he does that we haven't done in the past, but, we were able to keep a good portion of what we do terminology-wise and then just be able to, emphasize a few things.
Where have you seen the biggest growth in Drew?
Well, I think year two is valuable, just being that starting experience. And one of the things me and Drew talked about today is until you're in that position, especially at Penn State, again, the expectations are so high. The head coach feels that. The quarterback feels it, those positions. So he's just so much more comfortable. He's so much more confident. He understands what to expect from opponents, what a weekly schedule is going to be, the duration of the season, all those things. So he's just much more comfortable and confident.
It's no great secret that bringing Andy Kotelnicki in, part of that was the explosion. His Kansas teams were incredibly explosive. I thought we saw some of that today. Does the explosion come from scheming? Does it come from personnel? Like, kind of what's the balance there?
Yes.
Yeah, both,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So, the first thing I would say is, you look at us, let's be honest, offensively, we did some really good things. Our issue was we were not explosive enough, the point you just made. Yeah. So when you start this process, you say, okay, who's doing a really good job of manufacturing explosive plays? You can watch the film, you can study the data. When it comes to turnover ratio, we were one of the best in the country. So now if you can combine the turnover ratio, which is the most important stat in football, with the number 2 most important stat in football, which is explosive plays, now you got a chance to be special. And I think it also helps. You got a big, strong arm quarterback. You got receivers that are ready to take the next step. You maybe got the best tight end room in the country. You maybe got the best running back room in the country, at least part of the conversation. And an offensive line that's ready to show people that although we lost 3 guys to the NFL, we got a chance to be as good or better there.
It was fun today, and they broke some big plays, and you could hear guys yelling explosive, explosive when it happens, so you can tell that they're kind of taking ownership of that. You mentioned the receivers, and there's been questions about, are you good enough there? What have you seen in terms of the growth of that room?
Well, we got a ton of confidence in those guys athletically. I think this camp was really important to get a rhythm, to build confidence in them, in the system as well, and then playing really well early in the season to take that confidence into Big Ten play. So, you look at us, we went to the portal a little bit, not a ton of it. It's because we believe in the guys in the room and the commitment and the development they've made since the end of last season.
You have a new defensive coordinator as well, someone we know really well, and Tom Allen, and have just the utmost respect for. He's just fabulous. This defense has been so good here in recent years. You've been incredibly disruptive, and there are, of course, a number of different ways to play really good defense. Disruption is one of them. Do you imagine that that's still like the biggest component when people say, well, what do they do really well? Like, is disruption going to be the first line?
Yeah, because same thing we talked about on offense. We needed to hire somebody that would embrace the fact that we don't need to recreate the wheel. Right. You'll come in and put your stamp on it. Yeah, but we want to be disruptive, get people off schedule, so then on third down we can be an attacking style front and go after people. So that's been really good. I've been fortunate. I've had 3 defensive coordinators. All of them have had top 10 defenses. Yeah. I think that speaks to the people we've hired, but I think it also speaks to how we run our practices and how we operate. So Tom is in a challenging position and following Manny Diaz, and we had a top 3 defense in the country. country, but also he's done a great job, and as you know, just a phenomenal man.
Well, it also speaks to the job that you've done in recruiting. I mean, we were talking on the side during practice, and he was saying, look, the personnel is fabulous. And one of the guys, Howard's going to talk to him here in just a bit, Abdul Carter, what does his versatility do for you in terms of being able to move him around?
Yeah, you know, as you mentioned, personnel matters, right? Yeah. You know, good players help.
Yes, just a bit.
Yeah, and Abdul's an explosive guy. We weren't sure him going to defensive end at first, how long that adjustment would take. It didn't take very long. He's physical, he's explosive. Obviously, there's some details and specifics in terms of techniques and fundamentals he's still learning, but he's really transitioned fast, and he's a problem for our offense every day at practice, which is valuable, and I think he's going to have a chance to continue our disruptive ways on the defensive line.
Last question for you, James. Biggest things you want to get done between now and West Virginia?
Well, I think the biggest thing for everybody in the country is consistency, right? You know, we got a ton of guys that can make big plays. We got a system that'll put our players on in all three phases in position to make big plays. Who are the guys that can do it day in and day out? The dog days of camp. You guys saw it was a physical practice today, and I'm starting to believe that we can be that type of team. So that's number one, you know, being a consistent football team. You know, number two is the things we already talked about. We got to be explosive on offense, and defensively we got to make sure that we're still disruptive and getting people off schedule.
James Franklin, always a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Coach.
You as well. Thank you.
Here with one of the most feared defensive players in all of college football, Abdul Carter. Take me inside. What made you want to be able to rush the passer?
Well, since I got to Penn State, you know, rushing the passer has always been my strong suit. And I just think me going to edge, just being able to show my true arsenal of what I can do, just being able to dominate, take over a game, and just impact winning at the highest level.
What was that conversation like? Did you start it, or did Coach Franklin come to you with it?
So originally he recruited me to play defensive end, but you know, me and my dad was adamant that I was a linebacker.
Uh-huh.
But me coming here, going through my experiences, like I started to see how, like I was truly like a pass rusher, and just how I can impact games and take over games at a different level.
Talk to me a little bit about Tom Allar. High energy, real high energy.
Yeah, he loses his voice a lot because he yells so much. But yeah, high energy, great coach, great person, and he's somebody that we know as a defense we can follow, and he's going to lead us to where we need to be.
Well, look, we set up a little area here where I thought you could take me through some different things as far as a pass rusher, you being off the ball as a linebacker, and say I'm the back. Here's your quarterback here. You can be at your linebacker depth. And this tackle's gonna open up.
Okay.
The defensive end will go out. The tackle will open. Defensive end here or tackle here will block down. And now it's just me and you, right? Ball snap. What are you thinking about if I'm positioned here as a passer? You know we're one-on-one.
So yeah, before I even get to you, my first thing, I have to time the snap so I can make sure I'm getting the best get off, the best release. So if I know I'm getting a running back, my first thought is, I'm a power through him. So okay. I'm 6'4", 250, so I'm bigger than most running backs, fullbacks, whatever you want to call it. My first thought, I'm just using my force. I'm powering right through you against the quarterback.
So what happens if I open up in that position? So if I see you running, if I'm the back, I'm trying to get down here as quickly as possible, but maybe I leave this leg open. What's your response to that?
Well, I'm going to just take that. So I'm also reading, so whatever you give me, I'm going to take.
Okay.
Maybe I'll come here, I'll stab you here, then I'm pulling you by. I'm getting right to the quarterback.
Okay. So how about if I was tight end or tackle? Now I'm on the line of scrimmage, and you're outside, and I'm heavy-handed, butts in the air. You know I'm trying to run block, or what are your reads there?
Yeah, so most tackles, you know, 6'4", 300+ pounds. So
you know they're not my size?
I'm a speed guy. Yeah. I'm lining up wide. I'm making sure I'm getting my get off, and you got to be able to compete with my speed. If you can't, I'm blowing right by you. But
so what happens if I overtake you? If I'm able to get there, what's your counter? If we're here and you're speed rushing, I'm kicking, I get there.
See, my speed rush also sets up my counter. So if I'm coming off and I know you're with me, and I hit you, I'll probably hit you with speed a couple times. Now I'm spinning in. Now I'm spinning in. I just got multiple counters that I can do just to, you know, keep in mind.
So is it ever a point where you will just go ahead and if I'm light on my feet, if I'm light, hands are light, you know I'm gonna pass. You know, I'm pass protecting, so a stroke pass.
Get off. Everything's gonna look the same every time.
Okay.
So.
What about versus a run?
Yeah, same thing. You always want to make sure you get the good get off, but just coming off, using your hands, driving them back. Just making sure you're securing your gap, getting knocked back, being vertical, playing vertical so you can make plays.
As far as the meeting room is concerned, being here and being back there, how does that work for you? Are you in multiple meetings? Are you able to cover everything in one meeting?
You talking in terms of linebacker and edge? Yeah, so I would say linebacker is a more difficult position because, you know, it's a lot more thinking. You got to control the line, control the defense, cover the pass, stop the run, obviously. But when it comes to edge, everything kind of simples down a little bit. And, you know, you can just really just play fast, you know, get off the ball, just be aggressive, hunt the quarterback.
You got a nickname that we don't know about?
I got most of it. You call me the Big Ten Bully.
Big Ten Bully.
Big Ten Bully.
I love it. Man, have a great year, man.
Thank you.
Love your game.
Coach, thanks for joining us. I'm curious, you've been in a bunch of different places, a bunch of different levels. You know, you've gone through spring, now we're getting through a week of camp. How do you think your influence has been felt on the offensive side of the ball within this program?
That's a really good question. It's hard to answer because you never really know until you're in the thick of things, right? You're playing, real games and when things get tough. But I feel very welcomed, right? Certainly by the players, but then also by the staff. And I've always tell people, when you talk about influence, like I'm just one of 13 coaches that are on the offense side of the ball that are working. I'm pretty fortunate that I get to work with a lot of really good coaches that have been here for a while. Some that are lettermen, they understand Penn State, and so they were so ready to embrace, I guess, my ideas and thoughts because they're yearning to take the next step, right? They want to grow, they want to develop, they want to take the program the next step, and they're ready to do whatever it takes to do that.
Okay, so let's talk about the next step. Drew Allar, quarterback. He's got all the physical traits. The ball is beautiful when it comes off of his hand. What are some uncompromising principles that you must have in the quarterback room, and how is he either met, exceeded, or still working on those?
Well, the first thing I noticed with Drew when I got here was his commitment to daily improvement and getting better. He'll do whatever you ask him to do, right, to improve. You say, hey, you do this to get better, he's going to do it and work at it. So it started there, right, with us man, this guy really wants to get better. But then, when I started to interact with him and communicate with him and I see his film and I watch him play in the bowl game, you see his wittiness, his ability to just react to a stimulus and how quick he can decipher things. And you combine that with the IQ, the football sense and the growth of those kind of elite quarterbacks that you think about being able to be the coach in the field and orchestrating where everyone goes and what they're doing, and you can put things on his plate that way from a protection or getting in the right play. He can handle all that stuff, and he wants that stuff. He wants to have responsibility to be the difference.
Coach, did you say 13 offensive coaches? Is that what you said?
Yeah. It's kind of funny because my first full-time coaching job was at the University of Wisconsin-River Falls. I was the only full-time offensive coach. And then through every step of my career, now there's 13 guys in the room, and it's impressive. Coach Franklin's done a great job with the staff here. They're really good people. Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge of your install?
The journey to, and me and Coach Franklin talked through all this, during the interview process of, we can't just come in and just do everything that I've called it, right? That doesn't make any sense. You got all the whole offense and the staff that have to learn things. And so if I called this formation tray and they called it trips, I think we should call it trips.
Right.
So at the end of the day, we went through the whole playbook and said, what can we keep from a terminology standpoint that Penn State's done, to make sure the players are, their growth continues, because if they got to learn a whole new offense and terminology, there's going to be a plateau. And that was a long process, and it was actually pretty fun and enjoyable. As an offensive coordinator for long enough now, there's a certain time when you should be purging your playbook and you have to consolidate terminology and you start to evaluate that stuff. We got to do that as a whole staff, and I think it really helped the players pick up running in the spring.
You're 4 deep in the offensive line. How close are you to figuring out the first 5?
I don't know. You know what I mean? We just got done with the 5th or 6th practice. I don't remember. You know how it is. It's a blur, right, camp? But the evaluation process here is ongoing. I think one of the cool things about this place, and Coach talks about being competitive and wants this to be the most competitive environment in college football. That's a true thing. Every day we're competing and evaluating, and so it'll be a little bit yet, but I'm pleased. I think there's guys there that we're going to have.
You got a lot of guys that can move.
Yeah.
It's an impressive physical group.
Yeah.
equally as physical. Everybody's going to talk about the skill outside the facility. It talks about explosive plays. How have you evaluated the wideout group? And I got to imagine they hear the chatter that we hear, which is, can this group create explosive plays? Can this offense get chunky yardage?
Yeah, I think, they have really approached through the year 2024, really, with a chip on their shoulder, and I love it. I'm totally here for it. I'm really impressed with the growth that they have had, their commitment to daily improvement, their just desire to be like, you know what, like, we're going to prove you guys wrong who are pointing the finger at us. And I'm with them. I got their backs all the way to do things, whatever we got to do to help move the football, and they have been fantastic. Really, Coach. I think all summer and fall, it's been awesome.
Appreciate it, fantastic. Coach. Yeah, we appreciate the time.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck the rest of the camp.
Yeah, thank you.
Up from Happy Valley, season starts with a bang for Penn State, taking on old rival West Virginia in Morgantown. Conference slate starts with a home game for the first time since 2015. It actually starts with 2 home games. Illinois and UCLA on back-to-back Saturdays. Road games at USC and Wisconsin. They miss Oregon, Michigan, and Iowa, and they get Ohio State at home. Back with the whole crew here as we wrap things up. Guys, we saw that schedule. The mission is very clear. James Franklin didn't back away from it. It's to make the 12-team college football playoff. They would have made it 6 of the last 8 years. What do you think of their chances and how this team stacks up?
I think this team looks like most of the Penn State teams that we've seen. They're very talented on defense. They've made another change offensively. I think the difference is, obviously, the East Division is no longer here. That was difficult for anyone that was in the East. And I think this first game at West Virginia is going to be critical, and I think it's going to be really hard. And I wouldn't be surprised that they don't come out of camp a little early and start game planning for that game.
Yeah, I really like this team. They're as talented and as deep in the offense and the defensive line as I can remember. They have questions offensively, but that's normal. That's what we've seen. So this team, to me, after watching them today, it's no question that they're a playoff caliber team.
Week 1 against Garrett Green in West Virginia is going to be a challenge. I mean, he's so dynamic, and when you're such an aggressive defense with a guy that can move, that can be a challenge for you, as we know. I think overall, though, this looks like a team that should find their way into the playoff if they can remain healthy. I think the thing I like the most is, unlike most teams in college football, they got less than 10 transfer portal guys. Like, so they have got guys who've been in this system, been in this culture, and amid all the changes in college football, culture and leadership still win. They still win, period, end of story. And I think they have that. Abdul Carter, who you spent time with, you look at Drew Allar, and the confidence he's showcasing in year 2 after everything he went through in year 1, what Andy Kotelnicki has done for him. And then James Franklin, just so steady guiding this ship. So I'm a buyer all day long and a believer in what Penn State can do in this new look college football.
Long physical practice for sure. Whew. And I that's getting to be the norm. The guys are around year round. There's no more double sessions, but they put them through the drills today.
Yeah, there was a lot that got done on this day. The biggest question mark you have coming out of here is what?
Wide receivers and, filling in the 3 spots in the offensive line.
I think you can always, you automatically point to the wide receiver position because so much has been made of it. I think ultimately when you talk about scheme, they're going to be able to find a way to get guys open, get your playmakers in space to be able to make plays. That'll be critical.
To me, I'll go to that position group. I call it the circle guy. Like if you're calling a game, who am I going to circle and I got to have it down? I don't know who that's going to be because if I'm playing this team as a defensive coordinator, I'm adding another guy to the box, and I'm not letting these backs beat me or this tight end. I'm finding ways and saying, you got to win outside the numbers. And I'd imagine that's where they're challenged. Andy talked about it. They have that chip. He loves it. They're feeding into it. So can't wait because that situation will arise many times on critical downs and distances.
Yeah, it's going to fall on the quarterback a lot of times, right? And Drew Allar's got to play his best ball against the best teams, starting at West Virginia. I mean, this is a quarterback that's going to be in a really hostile environment, and it's his second-year starter, but it's his first year in the system.
The one thing you can say for Drew Allar, well, a lot of things you can say, but one thing he did really well last year was he avoided mistakes. And in an environment like that, Yogi, you know it well from the backyard brawl. I mean, it's going to be tough going to Morgantown. And the last thing you want to do is provide them with some momentum. And Drew Allar, incredible. I mean, only 2 interceptions last year.
I'm going to save the stories for off air about what it's like to go to Morgantown because they're probably not appropriate right now. But I'll say this. Every successful quarterback, and you know this from a player, from coaching, from playing, you have to be able to meet adversity, look at it, and work your way through it. Drew Allar is in that journey right now. Can't wait to watch him compete.
So that is the story here in Happy Valley. We are back on the road. We're going to make the 4-hour or so journey over to New Brunswick. We'll catch up with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Lots of excitement around that Rutgers team this year as Greg Schiano's got a outstanding defense ready to go. How good is the offense? That's a question we will try to answer as we check in with Rutgers. We will see you there. Thanks to everyone here in State College. Another great visit. We'll see you next time.